In this video, we're going to form and solve an equation involving doing something to a number. Now, the whole point of algebra is that we want to represent information about some unknown value and then solve some equation in order to find out what that value is. Now, if we take this problem here, Oliver thinks of a number x, he halves it and then adds 6. The answer is 8. Find the number that Oliver was thinking of. Now, we could do this without algebra. We could just think backwards, basically. So we could say, okay, you think of a number x, and then he halves it, so he divides that number by 2, and then he adds 6, and that gives him an answer of 8, and then he can work backwards from there. So if we work backwards from 8, if we were to do the opposite of add 6, that would be to subtract 6, so that would be 2. And we can see that 2 plus 6 will give you 8. And then what number divided by 2 is 2? Well, if you do the opposite of divide by 2, it's times by 2. So 2 times 2 would be 4. And then that would work because 4 divided by 2 is 2, add 6 is 8. So the answer is 4. But let's do it by forming an algebraic equation and then solving that equation. Now it says we start with a number x, and then he halves that number. How do you write half that number? Well, you divide it by 2. So we write x over 2 to say we want half of x. And then he adds 6. So he adds 6, and then the answer is 8. So that is equal to 8. And now we've got an equation we can solve. So remember how we solve an equation like this. We undo the last thing done to the variable, to x. So the x has been divided by 2 here, then we're adding 6. The last thing that was done was add the 6, so we undo it by subtracting 6 from both sides of the equation. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do the same to the other. So if we do the right-hand side minus 6, we just get 2. And if we do the left-hand side minus 6, we just get rid of that plus 6 to leave x over 2 like that. And now we look at this, well, x, the last thing done to x was this division by 2. So we undo that division by 2 by multiplying both sides of the equation by 2. So we multiply both sides of the equation by 2. On the left-hand side, the times 2 gets rid of that over 2, which leaves you just x. And then on the right-hand side, the 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. And we get the answer we expect of 4. Now, you might think that's slightly overkill, like, why do it this way when we can just think backwards from the final number? And you'd be right, but there's kind of harder questions like this where actually forming an equation would be the right strategy.